They're hearing these kind of noises. Now take another layer, put it on. Take another layer of that noise on. And that's what they're hearing when they're in a classroom with you. So I thought that was just a brilliant example that just naturally popped up in the room. Very distracting. And I had to keep taking my attention and going, stop. You know how to do this skill. Go back to Sandra. So I literally had to keep telling myself that. Anyway. So let's talk about executive function or executive skill. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up today is that we're all starting to roll out the how, right? Our how grading. And it does tie into this, how. In the sense of how we are assessing our students and the dialogue we're having after that assessment, okay? The dialogue will probably change once you understand more about function versus skill. Who can first, for the new people that I want to assume, I know all the returns, you guys have heard me talk about executive functions forever. Anybody want to shout out a good, concise definition of what an executive function or executive skill would be? What is that? Or what does it help you do? Helps you organize. So it's like a brain-based skill. Those are the skills that help us with later success in life, right? We can organize our time. We can start and finish a task. We can be flexible cognitively. We have great self-awareness, self-regulation, all of those pieces. So, now let's see if I can figure out how to use this, right? There we go. All right, so we're going to talk about these. Oh, sugar. There we go. Hold on, technology. Okay, so there's 4 arenas of involvement with these executive skills or executive functions. We want our students to be able to exhibit self-control, right? That's number 1. Everybody would agree with that, right? You got a kid in your classroom, you want them to have a good grasp of their own self-control, right? We want that control of self in relations to other, the interpersonal. We want the control in relation to the academics, and then control of the self in relation to our surroundings, our environment. Okay, so those are the 4 pieces that we're targeting when we're looking at these executive skills. And you're going to have some students that maybe are really good in their own control, but when they're around others, not so good. Okay? Still a work in progress. Yeah, we go to the next one. Okay, so let's talk about functions versus skills. What the what? All right, so skill. We talked about that a little bit. Working memory, emotional control, impulse control, task initiation, planning. All of those things are skills. The skill is how should I be doing it? So if I'm looking at time management and I'm able to kind of write down in my calendar, okay, Monday I need to do my math homework and I need to set aside 30 minutes. It's one thing to be able to kind of know how to do that, but then be able to activate that. So there's a bit of a difference there. Yeah. So the function is what should I be doing and when should I be doing it? So maybe I'm great at planning, but the initiation of the task, I don't know what I'm really supposed to be doing and when. Does that kind of make sense? Okay, so there's a difference. So functions cue and direct. Functions cue and direct. And we need to figure out, when we're looking at those how assessments, is the student struggling with initiative because of a skill that needs some development? Or are they struggling with that initiative piece because they don't know when to activate the skill? Okay, function versus skill. Okay, so let's think about this for a minute. Does a student lack inhibition for their age, or is the student not aware of when to use inhibition? Right? So you might have a kid who goes to a party and they're like whooping it up, having a great time, woo, yeah, right? Super uninhibited. I can't even say it. Anyway, you know the word. Then they go to Miss Hooper's classroom and they're like, woo, yeah! Okay, no, right? They don't know what's the appropriate environment for that, right? Because they actually can use that real crazy, wild, out there personality that they love in the right environment, okay? Next. So let's look at attention. What should I be aware of and what skills do I need? Next. So when we are cueing and directing our students, I'm going to challenge you to kind of be more cognizant of how you are cueing and directing. So one great example that we all have been doing, myself included, is every time we talk about flex time, we say, the student needs to check in. Do you know I have not yet heard any of us adults use a word other than check in? And I'm wondering, do all of our students understand what check-in means? Is that vague? Is it specific? Some of you probably are looking at me like, yeah, of course it's specific. Come on, check in. Everybody knows what that is. Maybe not. What's a better way? What's a more specific way that you could tell a student that, Sherry, please see me. Please see me. Or, Emma, when you get to the classroom, we need to have a face-to-face and I need to check you in on a document, okay? I need to sign that you're here, something. A little bit more specific then. You gotta check in. Come on over, check in, right? Just a different way to think about it. Yes?
My advice was yesterday, I had them tell me exactly who they were supposed to see at 3 o'clock on Wednesday. And then told them, that is where you need to be at 3:30 on Wednesday.
Yeah, so I might tell a kid, Johnny, when you get to Mr. Moody's classroom for flex time, I need you to go to his desk, and I need you to say, hello, Mr. Moody, I'm here for flex time. That's specific, okay? So an example of this, so I'm talking to my class, I say, please pay attention, class. Okay, next. Now I'm saying, okay, Emma, look at the board for the next 2 minutes. A little bit more specific, right? Now we go to another layer. Look at me. Okay, good. You're looking at me. Now please look at the board. Awesome. Thank you. So we get these layers of specificity. Okay, so if you do not perceive, you cannot attend. So again, it's the function versus the skill. Are you able to actually activate that skill? Emma's perfectly capable of paying attention. We all know this, right? But does she have that activation piece mastered yet? Thanks for being my teacher. Okay, the other piece is modulation. So they may have the skill, and it may be a portion of that modulating skill. So I'm going to kind of get into this a little bit. The ability to adjust your intensity of thoughts, feelings, perceptions, and actions. Okay, kind of like that party scenario that I pulled out, where it's really appropriate to be wild and crazy at a cool party, right? Or a not so cool party. But is it appropriate to do that when you're in your science class or some other class? Probably not. So difficulty with directions is the inability due to modulating the task. Again, going back to that modulation piece. Cue first and then work on the strategy. This makes sense. So when you are assessing your students in how, and you're really looking at those 3 categories, thinking about what kind of conversations that you can have with the student, thinking about this being very specific with your directions, making sure you're cueing, you're directing, and then kind of bringing in that strategy implementation. So we're going to, I'm going to skip that. Okay, so here is our how assessment, okay? Accountability, engagement, initiative. It's wonderful. There's so many good, positive things in this, right? All pieces that we need to be successful adults and students. So if we're looking at accountability, so I'm going to translate some of these into the executive function terms that I use, and hopefully it will also help you if you do have a student who's struggling with the accountability piece, and you need some suggestions. You can come talk to me. We can talk strategies. We can talk so what are you seeing? Is this an activation piece? Do they have the skills? Do they just not know when to use it? So with the accountability, what I noticed, it was planning and prioritizing and goal-directed persistence. So I went through each of the bullets and kind of translated them into what it is in our speak over in the CBT.
I worked at a school, a boarding school, that had like, I just want to know what you think about this. It was, I thought, brilliant. It had a school-wide plan book. It was done really well because it had a school calendar in there on the certain days. And we, as teachers, were all trained to say, okay, take out your planners, write your homework down. So I'm in this habit of saying, okay, everyone write down their homework before they leave, and they're just like, but we have power school. I was like, oh yeah, okay, power school. But I find a lot of them are doing their homework. I think they need to be taught that skill. So I'm like, okay, well, write down, check your power school. I don't know, I just want to...
I think here where that could be really, that's great. I think where it could be really helpful is in your advisory groups to have those conversations, because there are some students who using PowerSchool, it's very effective for them. It's a system that works. There are other students that it would be much more effective for them to have a paper copy.
Where they need that skill to learn how to
Right.
learn what to do still, even though
Right.
they don't have
Or they could be a student who needs to use the electronic calendar and plug it in that way. Okay, so there's lots of different ways that you can do it. And I think making sure that we are really paying attention to that student and kind of noticing, like, okay, I can support this student here because I'm seeing that this strategy that they're using right now is not working for them. You know, and then we can be really creative with other strategies to come up with. So we go. Sorry. Engagement. So we're going to go to that second piece. So engagement, and you guys can't do that. That's task initiation, sustained attention, self-regulation, emotional control. Okay? And I do have our content standards that I can share with you guys with a few of the pieces of strategies for this, if that's helpful when you do have those conversations with your students or advisors are having them. And the last piece is the initiative. So that's where we get into metacognition, self-awareness, and response inhibition. Okay. I think maybe that's it. Go to the next one. Okay, good. So that's it. I just wanted to kind of open up the dialogue for when we are talking about how with our students. And to really recognize that there's a difference between when to activate and to actually have the skill. There's a difference there.